it's really all about that lifetime value and how much money you're able to spend to acquire that person.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you can drive that lifetime value up and up and up and up, the more you can spend to get that person to still be profitable, the more likely you're going to succeed, because that's what it's all about in the US marketplace is, I mean, it's capitalism. Whoever can spend the most money to acquire somebody is going to win.
So it's Monday morning here, and we're just kind of doing our rounds, checking in with the team. And long story short, I got into this conversation with Nathan, our CMO, and I wanted to introduce kind of what we spoke about, because we really talked about, 4 big topics. The first one is kind of like the evolution of media buying, and we kind of dive into, it used to be you go out and you buy impressions, and that's it. That's all you really knew, is like how many people you're going to get in front of. But now we have, direct attribution, we have return on ad spend. So how to make sense of, how it started and to where it is now, and how to use that for your business. We also talked about scaling and how to plug holes with omnipresence. So if you prove something on a micro level, how to continue to do that with big budgets. And then we talked about how growing your lifetime value, your LTV, basically makes it impossible to fail. And lastly, how commitment at the end of the day makes you win. We're good.
The first thing that I tell everybody is that whenever I was on the Energizer team for Walmart Shopper, when we were buying media, depending on the site, depending on like what type of traffic that site saw and how targeted it was, we paid all the way up to like $150,000 for 2 million impressions, stuff like that. Like, we always bought media by the impression. There was never, it was never sold in as like, we're gonna get this type of return or anything like that. It was always like, you're gonna get this many people that see the ad, and this is how much you're gonna pay for it. And it was kind of up to the marketing team. Yeah. And it was up to the marketing team to really kind of decide and pinpoint what was going to work and what wasn't going to work. Mm-hmm. But like, the person that was actually selling the media never gave us that. It wasn't like, our stuff is going to outperform this site, or this placement's going to outperform that placement. It was never like that. It was always like, you're going to get this many people, this is how much it's going to cost, when do you want it? That type of thing. The way that Facebook ads compares to that, what I've seen over the years, is that it's astronomically more cost effective, and you can actually see what you're getting out of it. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can directly correlate how much money you're putting into the Facebook ad platform and how much money it's spitting out. Mm-hmm. Which absolutely blows people's minds, because then they start to think of it like an ATM. Like, oh, I put $10 in and I got $50 out. Holy crap, that's awesome. I'm gonna put $10,000 in and I'm gonna get this much out. And it's not always how it works, because it's a scale, and then there are multiple different ways to scale. But at the end of the day, scaling is really the hard part. I mean, when it comes to the Facebook ad platform. And so when you hear all these stories about people losing their ass and stuff like that, it's really about the scale. Mm-hmm. Like, if it's easy to win on Facebook. It's easy to win. Mm-hmm. It's harder to win consistently while you're putting more dollars into it.
Yeah, and I think that makes a lot of sense, because what happens on a micro level doesn't always mean that that's going to happen over and over on a big level. So, having the right systems and processes for being able to scale and keep like a good return on ad spend. But even this whole idea, like, I've heard marketers go so far as to say, like, they wish the return on ad spend column didn't even exist, because like you said, it used to be you just buy impressions, you develop a growth plan, And you know, if you're getting in front of people, like growth is happening, and you don't have to always pinpoint it. Pinpointing it is very helpful. But here's the pitfall that I feel like that happens when somebody can see a very direct return on ad spend, and at a very micro level, they start to lose focus on the big picture. And so that was something that was really cool that I thought, we're talking about our own marketing stuff. Why are we spending money building our email list? Why are we spending time, even doing content like this? It's like, well, are we growing? Are we profitable? Like every single piece is working together, and the micro statistics are very, very important for keeping a very close eye on your advertising. But if you lose sight of the big picture, that's gonna like make you lose quicker than anything, right?
Exactly. And I mean, when we're evaluating, especially profitability is an ecosystem. Like profitability has so many different aspects to it in any business. With these eComm store owners, they're going to have cost of goods sold, they're going to have labor, they're going to have operational costs. Like not everything is going to be cut and dry, but everything can get monitored as an ecosystem very easily. I mean, it's a simple income statement, balance sheet, whatever. You got your costs, you got what you made, and really that should outweigh everything, in my opinion. It's the minor things that you're injecting to make that revenue increase little by little. And, things like content. Content's not very quantifiable, but where you start to have the conversation is, how many touch points does it take to close somebody? In an e-commerce world, we talk about, 9 to 12 times-ish. You want your frequency to be that high throughout the funnel because you're constantly touching these people until eventually, when they're finally ready to make that decision, maybe they get paid on Friday, maybe they get paid on Monday, whatever. When they're finally ready to make that decision, you are still in front of them and it's an easy decision for them. It's the same thing with any business. It's super hard to say what a particular person's path to purchase was, what they saw first, what they saw second, what took them from awareness to consideration, what took them from consideration and tipped them over to the fence and made them put that thing in their cart and put their credit card on it. Like you never really know what the actual linchpin was. So the thing to do is to just put as many linchpins out there as you can. You're hitting these people up on Facebook. You're hitting, if they go and they type in something on Google, they're going to see you. They're going to find a YouTube video. If they're looking for reviews on this stuff, they're going to find a review. All of those pieces form the equation. And if one piece is missing, the problem with online buying is that it's super hard to grab somebody's attention and keep their attention and make them purchase without any distractions whatsoever. There's always going to be a distraction, right? So if you can put as much out there as possible to make their decision as easy as possible, you're going to start to see your revenue just go up and up and up and up, because what you're doing is you're essentially plugging all these holes in this bucket of people. And whenever you dump money into it, or your funnel, if you think of it like a funnel or whatever, we think of a funnel and we're spiraling people through this funnel. But if you don't have content, if you don't have reviews, if you don't have, word of mouth, if you don't have anything that's really backing up these advertisements that you're doing, you're going to start to see holes in the funnel. And it does us no good if we're spiraling oil or water, or whatever you want to visualize it as. It does nothing to spiral this liquid through this funnel if there's holes all around the funnel, right? Because you're just going to see water or oil or whatever squirting out. It's the same thing with our advertising funnel. If we've got holes in there, if we don't have reviews out there, if we don't have YouTube content out there, if we don't have that storyline and that kind of transparency that everybody wants to see, then people are just going to start falling off in a little, they might be in the consideration phase and they're right there. They want to work with us, or for an eComm person, they're looking at the product details or the reviews, and there's just this one little minor piece that they see when they say, oh, I'm something else because I saw this review that says this, or I saw that they didn't have any reviews, or I saw that in the details, the blend for this t-shirt wasn't there and I don't know what I'm really getting, that type of thing. Without that transparency throughout the entire funnel, you're going to lose people. And so when you talk about like, why are we spending time doing this? Why are we spending money doing that? It's really to plug those holes up inside of that funnel to where it's a nice, smooth spiral down.
And so what I love about that perspective and that understanding is it takes the same statistics that can like work against you. So like earlier we said, looking at statistics at a micro level and then thinking that can be scaled up, is a little bit foolish. And so, but when you have this understanding of omnipresence and you have this understanding of plugging those funnels and making sure that you're not losing stuff, that actually takes the same thing that can be working against the business and it uses it to breed confidence to where you're not, maybe you spent $10,000 this month. If you have those holes plugged, then that's when you can start thinking about, maybe it's safe for me to spend 100,000. If you're getting 4X or 3X, whatever it is, you work out your cost of goods sold and develop your own targets. But then that's how you make scaling become safe, right?
Exactly. And it's so the whole mentality that I bring to the game really is this Walmart, which is the background that I have is with Walmart. It's with big brand, it's with big budget. Walmart is this huge force in the retail world. And the reason is because their average consumer is just about everybody else. There's not a whole lot of holes in Walmart's business model. I mean, you think about just about anything. If it's the only thing that you can't really get at Walmart is like luxury goods. It's like very, very specific niche, expensive products. Those are the things that you got to go to a specialty store for. But when you think about their business model and how they do things, one of the things that they've done is they have driven the lifetime value up of a customer to the point that it is almost impossible to fail. Because when somebody starts shopping at Walmart, they shop at Walmart their whole life sometimes. Like that's a monthly purchase. You think about like software subscriptions and stuff like that. You think about a software subscription that you would have for 50 years. That's Walmart. You know what I mean? The lifetime value is so high. I've seen numbers on it and it's stupid astronomical. Like there are people that on the average would spend $20,000 to $30,000 on their lifetime in Walmart stores. Great. Like it's stupid. So it's like, when you think about that from an eComm perspective, it's really all about that lifetime value and how much money you're able to spend to acquire that person. Because if you can drive that lifetime value up and up and up and up, the more you can spend to get that person and still be profitable, the more likely you're going to succeed, because that's what it's all about in the US marketplace. It's capitalism. Whoever can spend the most money to acquire somebody is going to win. And to your point, when we go back to that visual representation of a funnel, if I can make my funnel, let's say I'm spending $100 and my funnel's this big, right? And I've patched all the holes and I start to spend $10,000, all of a sudden my funnel goes from this big to that big. Okay, if I don't patch those holes though, and my funnel goes from this big to this big, how many more holes do I have? And how much more dollars is just pouring out of those holes, right? So like I said, it's a scale. It's always gonna be a scale. And as these e-commerce stores can patch these holes up and drop more money and more money and more money to widen that funnel over time, and then at the bottom getting these huge chunks of money in a form of lifetime value, then that's whenever it becomes a business model that is astronomical. It's something that you can go from being a small business, middle level business, to somebody that's doing in the 7 figures every single year, somebody that's moving on to 8 figures, somebody that's moving on to 9 figures, that type of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, people think that that's just not possible, but in reality, how many companies have actually achieved that? There's tons of them in the US that have achieved that type of level. And the reason was they committed to it.
Yeah.
Like that's at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, is the commitment. Because you've got these families that are billions of dollars rich because over 50 years they just committed to this thing, and there was always something that they were patching and something that they were optimizing. And as those years grew, so did their revenue. And it's one of those things where it's not going to happen overnight. And a lot of that's the big problem with Facebook ads, is that everybody's hearing this overnight success story from it, and it's just not the case. It's media like anything else, but it is the most cost-effective form of media, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. Well, dude, thanks so much for hopping on and kind of just spreading some light on that. I'm sure we'll have many more conversations. Like, even as you're talking, there's like 100 different tangents you could go on and elaborate on, even different things to do to increase lifetime value. But dude, let's call that a wrap. And that was awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely, man.